Welcome to Family Guidons, the podcast created by military spouses for military families.
We're the ones holding down the home front during deployments, state activations, and everything in between.
Here we have an honest conversation about the realities of military life, the highs, the hard moments, and the strength it takes to keep moving forward.
Whether you're new to the military community or a seasoned spouse who's seen it all,
Family Guidons is your place for connection, support, and real conversations.
Because no one understands life like the ones who've been living it beside them.
This is Family Guidons. Fall in. Welcome back to Family Guidons. If you tuned in for our very first episode, we're glad to have you here again. Last time, we took the time to introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit about why we're here having these conversations with you. If this is your first time listening, we have a great podcast for you today. Our topic is, you've begun the new year solo, but you've got this. So before we get into that, we just want to introduce ourselves briefly. I'm Michelle Matheny, a military wife of almost 14 years, a mom to 3 sweet little girls, and a small business owner.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Stillwell. I am a military spouse of almost 31 years. I'm a military mom of a son who is currently serving on active duty. I'm also a Gold Star child.
Hi, I'm Kathy Bridgers. I'm a military wife of 29 years, also a mom of a military son in the Air National Guard, and a daughter that's a physical therapist.
I just have to say, y'all are giving me like flash forward to what my kids are going to be doing in 15 years. In our previous podcast, we asked our listeners to send in their stories of military life to us. And so we wanted to start today by reading a couple of those emails that really resonated with us and related to our topics of discussion for today. So Kathy, you want to go first with your email?
Sure.
Okay.
Our first one is from an active duty Army spouse. It's from Courtney P. She's stationed in Washington State. She says, our family began this exciting Army adventure in December 2021 with our first PCS to Fort Carson, Colorado. When we arrived, we had a middle schooler and a high schooler, so this was a hard transition for both of them. In March 2022, we experienced our first deployment, and yes, it was tough. But we are very blessed to have a community of people to encourage and lift us up. I got the kids involved in youth group activities and lots of one-on-one. I would encourage anyone to find your village and rely on all resources that are provided for you and your family. A few ideas that helped our family through deployment was having 2 clocks. One is set with our time and one was set with Dad's time. Deployment bears that your little ones can carry with them, and Hershey Kiss jars to remove one from that jar and put it into another to help count down the days that Dad's gone. There are just a few ideas that helped me and my family. Please know that you're not alone in this journey, and reach out if you need anything. In Christ, Courtney P.
I love that. Those are great ideas. And funny enough, we're doing at least 3 of those in our house right now. We have a whole...
Which ones are you doing?
So we've got the clocks with labels for like where Bill is, and then our time here, which is, helpful for the 5-year-olds who are also learning how to tell time. And we did jars that we're moving like pom-poms from one jar to the other. Oh. So, which was kind of hard to see in the beginning when one jar is completely empty. But now they're starting to like even out a little bit. So they get excited about whose turn it is to do that every day. And then the bears were a wonderful gift from the family programs office here for the casing of the colors ceremony. They gave a bear in a little military uniform to every, they had one for every dependent of a family that had a deployed service member. So, yeah, and they love them. They're sitting on their beds. And
one of the things that we did when Rob was deployed to Afghanistan, the children were younger then, and flat daddies, if you remember the flat Stanley,
yes.
That was so popular, we had a big poster of a flat daddy mounted on hard backing. He went with us everywhere. If we went to the lake with friends, flat daddy was in the boat with us. If it was a birthday, flat daddy was, in the pictures right there as we were singing Happy Birthday. So, those little touches really do.
That's a great idea.
Bring the missing service person along with us.
When Scott deployed, they were making pillows with the guys' faces on them, so that when the kids went to sleep at night, they could sleep with a pillow, and it would have, dad on it, or mom, whoever's gone. And I put together just like a little mini photo thing of 3 or 4 photos for them, of pictures of them with their dad, so they could keep it beside their bed. And if they felt like they were missing it, they would just carry it with them throughout the day or take it to school.
Yeah.
Help them remind them.
That's great. I love all those ideas. I feel like this is a whole nother podcast topic in and of itself. So thank you, Courtney P., for your story. Charlotte, you have one also?
I do. We received an email from Jody H. Her husband is in the South Carolina Army National Guard. One of the biggest challenges I faced during the holidays was the fear of how our children would handle the Christmas holidays without their dad. I worried about keeping the joy alive when so many of our traditions felt incomplete without him here. I also carried the weight of wondering how my husband would experience Christmas while being so far away from us. What helped me stay strong was focusing on what we could do instead of what was missing. We created new traditions, stayed connected in every way possible, and gave ourselves grace when things just felt a little different. Through this deployment, we grew so much stronger as a family. We learned what we were capable of doing, and we knew that we could do hard things and still find joy. I wish I had known sooner that different doesn't mean broken. Even though the holidays weren't the same, they were still meaningful. We didn't just get through it, we grew from it. Thank you, Jody.
I love that. I feel every bit of that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's interesting. This is so Bill has been deployed before, but we have always been lucky that he has never been gone over like the major holiday season.
You are lucky.
Yeah. He's always like they've started, their train up or their big train up or whatever after the new year and then come home. I think last time he came home like 3 days before Christmas. So it was kind of touch and go there. But so it's been different for this year. And I know we're going to get into that a little bit more. But anybody have anything else specific to that email before we?
I don't think so.
Okay. And that's a huge part of our discussion today. So I know we'll talk a lot more about that. But thank you so much for the listeners who took the time to send in emails. We are going to use those in future podcasts to generate some topics for us. And we are, I speak for, I think, all of us when I say we are really blown away by how quickly word of this project has spread and the excitement that is surrounding it and the number of people who are looking to, support us and this venture. So speaking of sharing, I wanted to tell a short story about how this podcast came to be. And I know that you ladies know this, but for our listeners, so as I mentioned in my intro, my husband is currently deployed and I volunteer with his unit's SFRG. So in the fall, shortly after they departed, myself and the other volunteers were really struggling with how hard it was to get families to the events that we were planning and wondering why people just were not engaging. And I think part of it was the time of year. It was right before kind of the ramp up to the holidays. But I think the other part of it really comes down to people need support and they want support, but they're really unsure of what that looks like for them. Or unsure of trying something new in such a vulnerable time in their lives. For a lot of people, a lot of families in his unit, this is their first deployment experience. So conversations around that, kind of became that I think they just people need to see that other people are struggling too, and that nobody is doing this perfectly. And then there's a sense of camaraderie that comes from that helps everybody, right? So I started brainstorming with Precious, who is the wife of our unit's chaplain, who then brought in Lori, who is the state chaplain's wife. And together, the three of us decided we were going to create a series of short supportive videos on YouTube. And so our hope was that those videos would reach people who needed to see them and kind of show the struggles of military families and spouses when their loved ones are gone, so that they wouldn't feel so alone in all of that tough stuff. And so, side note, if you're interested in that content, you can find her YouTube link in the podcast description for this episode. We definitely are not gatekeeping any resources here, and we want to make sure that we are letting everybody know about everything that's out there. So would encourage you to go check that out in addition to this podcast. So the videos are out there, and then all of a sudden it got so much bigger than that. A chance mention of this project in a meeting made it to the ears of the Public Affairs Office here at the South Carolina National Guard, and they wonderfully immediately jumped in to say, how can the Guard support this? How can we make it bigger? We think there's a need for this. And I think truly, like, we are all here because we believe that there is a need for content like this, and it doesn't exist right now that we can find. So our goal here is just to offer as many sources of support as possible to our listeners and to the military families out there, so that the one that makes the most impact for them reaches the person that needs it, I think is what it's all about, right?
Would have been wonderful to have this 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that we can take part to help others now.
Yeah, so.
Okay, well, it's time for Christmas reflections. We made it through the holidays. That's a victory. The season can be full of joy, but it can also be full of tough experiences, especially when your service member is deployed. Let's take a moment to reflect on the holidays. What went well? What felt challenging? Every experience teaches us something. So how can we use what we learned to support ourselves and move forward with confidence? So we're going to share some of our experiences. My challenging experience was a Christmas that I had to spend alone. 2 years ago, no husband, no children. I didn't think it could get tougher than no husband with children, but I have adult children, and they were doing their own thing, and my husband was gone for work, and I toughed it out like we military wives do, and I didn't reach out to anybody, and that was a huge mistake. I mean, it was an okay day. I focused on the positive, and I focused on my faith, but afterwards I realized that I didn't handle it the right way. So the way I used that experience was this year we reached out to friends, and we actually found 2 people who were going to be home alone for Christmas, and we invited them to come to our house, and they were hesitant. They didn't want to, bust in on the family experience,
Right.
but it added so much joy and laughter to our Christmas day that I can't imagine doing it any other way. So
I love that.
my advice from that is reach out to your support group and let people know if you're going through a tough time, no matter what it is, because people want to help. They want to get out of their own problems and issues and help other people, and check on people. You never know who's struggling, even holidays or not holidays. Just check on your friends and your family.
Yeah.
And make sure they're okay, because it's hard to reach out. But if somebody reaches into them, it's a lot easier to ask for help.
Yeah, I feel that so much. I am not good at asking for help. I'm not great at accepting it either, but I'm getting better. But it is really hard to make that first move and be the one to say, hey, I'm going to be home alone and I don't want to be. But yeah, I think sometimes it's good to be a little bit of that bulldozer friend who just says, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming over and we're going to, do this or whatever that might be. I feel like that, I have a great network of friends in our neighborhood, and we have family close by, my husband's family. But as I was thinking about this, one of my small wins or challenges was just the Christmas decorations. You don't think about how much stuff that is and how much time that takes until you're trying to do it by yourself. And I kind of said, I'm not going to do it all this year. We'll just do a little bit. I'm not going to do the real tree. I got a beautiful fake one that, looked very nice, and now I'm kind of hooked on that. But particularly, I was saying I'm not going to do outdoor decorations. I'm not going to put up all the lights because it just seemed like too much. Mm-hmm. And then as it got closer, it just felt really sad to not have those up. So I was like, no, we're going to do some lights. I'm going to make it happen. And so one day when my kids were playing outside, I got all the lights out and I started figuring out where I was going to string them and putting up the hooks and all the stuff. And my 2 sweet neighbor friends, one on either side of me, happened to be outside also. And without a word, they just came over, started unrolling the lights, and asking me where I was planning to put them. And, you know, both of them joked, like, they don't even help their own husbands with their Christmas lights, but they were more than happy to pitch in and help me. And that is one of those things I never would have asked. Like, didn't want to inconvenience anybody else. If I'm going to do it, I can do it myself. But it was wonderful, and it just made my day. And it turned like a very small, but what felt like a big challenge at the time, into something that was totally manageable. So that community is huge.
It's huge. So both of the things that you've commented on resonate with me. I feel like we're peas in a pod. In terms of asking for help, I didn't always do that. And if I could have a conversation with a younger spouse or family member who's coming up through the ranks, my advice would be to find your village and rely on them. Ask them for help, because you're blessing them too. They want to help you.
And people just don't know how.
Yes, they don't know how, and they don't want to step on your toes. But if you asked, if you raised your hand and said, hey, I need this, they would be there in a minute. The other part of that is being overwhelmed at Christmas, So this season, I found myself in a situation where I was feeling put upon. I was doing all the things on my own, I felt like, to make sure that the holidays were merry and bright for everyone. But in a moment of being honest with myself, I realized I was putting that pressure on myself.
Yeah.
I do enjoy doing it. That's part of it. But I was putting that pressure on myself. So this year, decorations didn't go up precisely when I would have had them in the past, out and ready. I kind of slowly rolled out outdoor decorations. We didn't cook, or I didn't cook, all the same meals. And it felt good. I mean, I was actually there to be present. So one of the things that I knew this lesson, but one of the things I knew and came in touch with was the idea that I had written this narrative of perfection as to what I thought I needed to have in place for my family. And it really wasn't that. So I think everybody, whether connected to the military or not, could benefit from simplifying and taking stock of, what you really need.
Yeah. One suggestion I heard going into the holiday season that we did this year was to ask, to sit down and have a little family pre-holiday meeting and ask your kids or your spouse or your extended family, whoever makes up your village for the holidays, what they really feel strongly about. Yeah. Like, everybody picks one holiday event that you go to, one special food that you have, one special treat that you make, and then you let everything else go. Because I think as parents especially, or as spouses, we feel the pressure to make the Christmas magic, right? And you might be surprised how many things people don't really have strong feelings about. And you can let those things go without feeling guilty about it.
It's great allowing them a voice in the planning, because I think they enjoy it more when they get to take part in it. And I think part of the trap that we fall into is looking on social media and seeing what looks like the perfect decorated house and all the box checked and the wonderful art activities that they're doing with the kids. And it's looking at yourself and going, God, how do you do all that? Well, you don't know that they're doing all that really, and it's got to be about your family. You can't fall into that comparison trap. You need to do what's good for your family.
And we all made it through.
We did.
And hopefully we had a good time.
Yes, absolutely.
And now it's January.
So the holidays do have a way of magnifying all of the emotions, the joy, the excitement, the build-up, but also the loneliness and the exhaustion creeps in. The decorations come down. We find ourselves in a new month, a new year. I'm just curious, does January look different to you as a military spouse?
I don't think it does every year, but this year, it definitely does. And it has in the past leading up to a deployment. I am semi-guilty of like being a big resolutions person in the past, and this year I didn't even attempt it, didn't even go there. I feel like my focus was totally on just trying to get into a normal, manageable routine because of when he left, and it was so quickly straight into the holidays that then everything was hustle and bustle and busy and fun. And I don't feel like we ever really settled into a great daily routine after his departure before it got into the holidays. So for me, January is all about just trying to, get back to the basics.
Mm-hmm. I know that when Rob was deployed, much like what you're saying, I was not focused on a resolution. I was not focused on January being a brand new start to the year. I was focused on getting those kids to school, getting them to basketball practice, just living a life, living our routine. Mm-hmm. Now that's evolved over time, but then in your shoes where you are now, that's exactly what I was doing.
Yep.
Trying to get back to some kind of structure and normalcy.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing that I would say to other people and that I've said to myself is that, to get rid of that pressure to start fresh, to do something big in January and just find those small changes that you can make to make life easier or more manageable in whatever season you're in. So even if it's not an active deployment, but there's training on the horizon, or you're just trying to get back in your normal routine. One of the neat things that I feel like we did do, or that's being really helpful in my family this year, is sitting down the week before the kids went back to school, and even the 5-year-olds, everybody picked 5 things. So we have a list, our 5 things charts. Mm-hmm. Everybody is responsible for 5 things that they know they can do themselves every single day. And that list looks different for the 5-year-olds than it does for my 10-year-old. So she is a little bit more helpful to me around the house, and the twins are just a little more helpful in getting themselves, where they need to be. But, their list looks more like making sure my water bottle is in my book bag or wherever it needs to be and putting my own shoes on. And her list looks more like vacuuming the kitchen and the dining room after dinner every night to get up the mess of the day, and helping to, rinse dishes after meals and get them in the dishwasher. But it has done an amazing thing for me in terms of the mindset shift to not feel like I am spending all of my time running around doing nothing but managing like the mess and the stuff that needs to happen every day. Because honestly, I think that has been my biggest struggle, is just losing that second set of hands, and nobody else can help with that, right? Like you can't really call a neighbor or a family member for that because they've got their own houses to take care of and their own evening routine and all of that. But that was the part that was really bogging me down, I feel like, before the holidays. So trying to get the kids to buy in and help with that stuff has been really amazing for me.
We did something really similar to that when the kids were younger. We had a list out all the chores that needed to be done, and I let them take turns picking the ones that they wanted to do and that they were responsible for. And they could trade. If they got tired of it, they could trade down the line. But I think having them pick it as their chore and then them splitting it up kind of helped with, well, I did this and they did that. Mine are only a couple of years apart, so they could do equal chores. And I do remember when my daughter went to college, she said, I never thought I would thank you for teaching me how to clean. I'm the only one of my roommates that actually cleans, and it really helped doing the list.
Yeah. And then you can't forget about yourselves either, right? You got to do a little something for yourself. So what does that look like?
I know that is also a topic, or should be a topic. What does it look like to help yourself? But to speaking back to your children and getting them involved, what a great lesson that is, just like you said, Kathy, for being a human, an adult down the road. Likewise, my children said, I can do laundry. I know how to do that. I can handle this. It wasn't something I had to go to college to learn to do on my own. So, great lessons there, just all the way around.
Yeah. And I think, finding some kind of reset that you can do for yourself, whether that's, something to make your household chores easier, something, for yourself mentally or spiritually or emotionally. So are you ladies trying to do anything this January to start your year off right?
Well, for me, I try to make attainable goals for the new year. I take time to kind of breathe and reflect on last year, make attainable goals for this year so I can have some victories. I don't want to go too high and then beat myself up when I can't attain them. Try not to compare myself to other people's resolutions, just kind of keep it geared for myself and give myself grace and give other people grace. There are good days and bad days. Sometimes just making it through the day is a victory and hitting a goal. But my goals this year are to focus on spiritual and physical exercise, because I feel like without those you can't have mental and emotional balance. So I'm joining a Bible study and also going to be upping my exercise routine so I can keep up with my adult children and my probably soon growing family.
Good. That's exciting.
That's exciting to hear. So one of the things that I'm doing to reset is getting back to my focus on gratitude. Earlier this summer, I was living through some difficulties related to a family member's health, and it was rough.
Yeah.
And during that time, I picked up a journal, and I started writing down every morning before I did anything other than have my glass of water with me, 10 things that I was grateful for. And, I made sure I wasn't approaching it just as an academic exercise. I was getting into it and really feeling that gratefulness, that thankfulness. And let me just say, it has been such a blessing to me. And when I say blessing, I mean with a capital B. It has been wonderful because what it's done is it's given me a tool for tapping into a more healthy way, a more positive way of reframing what it is that is going on around me. And I since then have started looking into practicing gratitude. The benefits are amazing. And I encourage anyone listening today to the podcast just to pick up the computer and Google practicing gratitude. And you'll see that the benefits, both physically and mentally, are just phenomenal. They're really kind of life-changing.
That's really neat. I should do that.
I have heard it changes your brain chemistry in a really positive way.
Yeah, precisely.
And that it's literally impossible for your brain to focus on worrying when you're doing thankfulness or gratitude exercises or writing stuff down. It literally shifts your brain and takes it out of the worry mode.
Absolutely.
Kind of along a similar line, I think my biggest reset for this January, beyond the list that I mentioned, was trying to slow down. I feel like we are really busy with 3 kids and my business and everything else that comes along in life. And so my focus has been to try to take some quiet time each day. For myself, trying to start the mornings, like schedule that first client a little bit later so that I can just spend a little bit of time sitting, listening to a podcast or something that brings me peace and joy. And then also trying to end our days with that. We have started doing quiet time in the evenings, all 4 of us, me and the girls. And so after everyone is ready for bed and, the kitchen has been cleaned up, we all grab a book or, a coloring page or whatever, quiet activity we want to do. And we sit together, either, in my bed, in my big, king size bed, or down on the couch. And we just spend it was suggested to me a quiet hour, and that's just not realistic for us. But we do like a quiet 20 or 30 minutes, right. And it has drastically changed our nighttime routine. It has taken the hurry out of getting everybody to bed. It has taken the fussing and the pushback and the whining away from the kids when they get that time to just slow down. And they may be going to bed 15 minutes later because of it, but it is a much more peaceful process for everybody. And so that is absolutely one very tiny change that I am going to be continuing into the rest of this year. So I think I would love to hear if our listeners have any things that they have done in January or that they're planning to do moving forward that has really made an impact in their life or that they're looking forward to. Send us an email and let us know that. I think that'd be a neat thing to look at in our future episodes.
Absolutely.
I'm always up for new ideas. So,
absolutely. So as we wrap up our conversation today, let's remember that getting through the difficult moments is what we learn and who we become as we navigate them. Being away from our loved ones during the holidays presents unique challenges, but it also offers us a chance to reveal our own strength and resilience, as well as the strength of the military community. Whether it's leaning on friends, creating new traditions, or simply taking things one day at a time, each story shared shows that we are stronger than we realize.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, Charlotte. Thank you for that. I feel like I've learned a lot today from everybody's stories. Thank you, everybody that's shared. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, we'd love for you to hit that follow button on whatever platform you listen to your content on. And even better, share this with another military family. I'm really excited about our next episode, Their Duty in Today's World. We're going to dive into the challenges of managing all the information that might be coming in your direction from outside, and those well-meaning inquiries into what your service member has been up to lately. Thank you for listening to the Family Guidons from the Bluff Road Readiness Center in Columbia, South Carolina, to wherever you may be. Until next time.